Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Elizabeth Crean. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I invite you to please stand for the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Robert Castle. Robert Castle was born in January 1887 in Pembrokeshire, South Wales, to William and Jeanie Castle. When he was a child, Robert's family moved to Ballantyre in Scotland for some years before settling in Carlisle in Cumberland. Robert was educated at a boarding school and went on to work as a cloth finisher at Messrs Ferguson Brothers Home Headworks. He also served 5 years in the military, rising to the rank of corporal in the 4th Battalion, the Border Regiment. Robert was raised in a devout Christian family and was a member of the local Methodist church and choir in Carlisle, who praised him for his diligence and enthusiasm. Robert Castle came to Australia at the age of 26, taking up poultry farming in the Koroit district, Victoria. He quickly became an active member of the local Methodist Church and Christian Endeavour Society. He was also a member of the Independent Order of Rechabites, an organisation that promoted temperance and sobriety. It was later reported that his influence was felt by his companions and friends in these circles. Robert Castle enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 4th of August 1915, exactly a year after Britain declared war on Germany. He spent the next 6 months in training camps in Australia, possibly working as a musketry instructor. Private Robert Castle finally left Australia for overseas service with reinforcements to the 14th Battalion in February 1916, on board the troopship Ballarat. Castle arrived in Egypt on the 22nd of March 1916. There, the AIF completing a period of reorganisation and training in preparation for transfer to the Western Front. Castle was sent on to France in early June 1916, refusing promotion twice, and by late July had been transferred to the 46th Battalion in the field. Over the next 7 months, he would spend almost as much time in hospital as he did on the battlefield, first with a sprained ankle and later with the flu. By October, he had returned to the 46th Battalion for the second time and spent the bitterly cold winter of 1916-1917 rotating in and out of the front line. Castle wrote letters to his friends in Australia in which he spoke of the terrible life in the trenches and the great loss of life, and how frequently he had received slight wounds. On the 11th of February 1917, Private Robert Castle was a member of a small raiding party led by Lieutenant William Syme that was charged with extending the battalion's position in a location called Cloudy Trench. The operation, which re-established a connection with the battalion to the right, was most successful, with about 200 metres of trench captured for the cost of 2 men killed and 4 wounded. One of the men wounded was Private Robert Castle. He was carried from the battlefield with a shattered arm and wounded face, and was taken to the 45th Casualty Clearing Station. Despite the treatment he received there, Private Robert Castle died of his wounds on the 15th of February 1917. A Methodist minister was with him as he died and said, "He passed away trusting in God, his duty nobly done." Although Robert Castle had spent little more than 2 years in Australia, he had quickly become part of the community in Koroit. A memorial service was held for him in the Koroit Methodist Church, during which the deepest sympathy was expressed for the parents and other members of the family in the old land, and for friends and loved ones in Australia. Private Robert Castle is buried in Dernicourt Communal Cemetery Extension near the French town of Albert. He was 30 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Robert Castle, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that completes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.